Why 90% of divorces are a scam. Picture this: a couple stands at the altar, vowing to love each other till death do them part. Fast forward a few years, and they're in a courtroom, fighting over who gets the dog, the house, or even the last word. Divorce. It's a word that carries weight, pain, loss, betrayal. But what if I told you that 90% of divorces aren't what they seem? What if I told you that behind the tears, the lawyers, and the drama, there's a hidden truth, a truth that's been engineered to profit off heartbreak? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on why 90% of divorces are a scam. Buckle up, because this is going to change the way you see love, marriage, and the system that's tearing it all apart. Before you roll your eyes and say, "Another conspiracy theory," hear me out. This isn't about tinfoil hats or shadowy cabals. This is about cold, hard facts, backed by data, psychology, and the stories of real people who've been through the ringer. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the divorce industry is a multi-billion-dollar machine, why society pushes couples to the breaking point, and why you, yes you, need to rethink everything you've been told about happily ever after. Let's dive in. Let's start with a number: $50 billion. That's the estimated size of the divorce industry in the United States alone. Lawyers, mediators, therapists, real estate agents, private investigators. There's an entire ecosystem that thrives when marriages fall apart. But here's the real deal: this industry doesn't just profit from divorce, it's designed to create it. Think about it. If marriages were stable and couples stayed together, an entire sector of the economy would collapse overnight. So, how do they keep the cash flowing? By making divorce not just an option, but the default solution. First, let's talk about the legal system. The average cost of a divorce in the US ranges from $15,000 to $20,000 per person. For contested divorces, where things get messy, that number can skyrocket to $100,000 or more. Divorce attorneys aren't just there to help you navigate paperwork. They're incentivized to drag things out. Every extra court date, every heated argument over who gets the vacation home, every last-minute motion filed, it all adds up to billable hours. And who pays? You do. The couple who once promised to share everything is now splitting their life savings to fuel a legal battle that often leaves both sides worse off. But it's not just about money. The legal system is built to amplify conflict. Ever heard of no-fault divorce? It sounds nice, right? No one has to prove infidelity or abuse. You can just walk away. But here's the dirty secret: no-fault divorce, introduced in the 1970s, made it easier for couples to split without resolving their issues. Instead of encouraging reconciliation or communication, the system says, why bother? Just sign here. The result? Divorce rates in the US jumped from 2.2 per 1,000 people in 1960 to 5.2 per 1,000 by 1980. Coincidence? Or a system designed to churn through marriages like a factory? Now, don't get me wrong. Some divorces are necessary: abuse, abandonment, irreconcilable differences that can't be fixed. But 90%? That's not necessity, that's a trend. And trends don't happen by accident. They're engineered. Let's look at the numbers. In 2023, the US divorce rate hovered around 2.5 per 1,000 people, with over 600,000 divorces filed annually. That's more than 500,000 couples every year, many of whom could have saved their marriage with the right tools. But the system doesn't want you to have those tools. Then there's the therapy industry. Marriage counseling sounds like a lifeline, but here's the truth: not all therapists are created equal. Some are genuinely invested in helping couples rebuild, but others? They're part of the scam. Studies show that only about 50% of couples who go to therapy see lasting improvements in their marriage. Why? Because many therapists are trained to focus on individual happiness over the relationship. They'll ask, are you fulfilled? Are you living your truth? Instead of, how can we fix this together? The result? One partner, usually the one feeling unfulfilled, is encouraged to walk away, while the other is left blindsided. And let's not forget the cost. The average marriage counseling session costs $100 to $200 per hour. If you're going weekly for a year, that's $5,000 to $10,000 out of your pocket. Meanwhile, the therapist has no skin in the game. If you stay together, great. If you divorce, even better. They'll get you back for individual sessions to process the breakup. It's a win-win for them, but a lose-lose for you. But the divorce scam isn't just about money, it's about culture. Open your phone, scroll through social media, and what do you see? Influencers preaching self-love and living your best life. TV shows and movies glorify the single life, portraying marriage as a ball and chain that holds you back from your true potential. The message is clear: if you're not 100% happy every second of your marriage, you're doing it wrong. Dump your spouse, chase your dreams, and don't look back. Sound familiar? This cultural narrative isn't an accident. It's a deliberate push to normalize divorce as the go-to solution for any bump in the road. In the 1950s, divorce was a last resort, stigmatized because marriage was seen as a sacred commitment. Today, it's a lifestyle choice. Celebrities flaunt their conscious uncouplings, and society cheers them on. But here's the reality. The average person isn't a celebrity with a $50 million net worth and a team of PR agents. For most of us, divorce means financial ruin, emotional trauma, and years of rebuilding. So why are we being sold this fantasy? Let's talk about the biggest lie in divorce: irreconcilable differences. It's the catch-all phrase that covers 70% of divorce filings in the US. Sounds serious, right? Like two people who just can't make it work no matter how hard they try. But dig deeper, and you'll see it's often a cop-out. Irreconcilable differences can mean anything from he leaves dishes in the sink to she spends too much time on her phone. These aren't deal breakers, they're fixable problems. So why do couples give up so easily? Here's where it starts: expectations. We've been fed a fairy tale about love. Movies, social media, even dating apps tell us that the right partner will make every day feel like a rom-com. No fights, no flaws, just endless butterflies. But real marriage? It's messy. It's a compromise. It's waking up to the same person snoring for the 10,000th time and choosing to love them anyway. The problem is, we've been conditioned to expect perfection, and when reality doesn't match the fantasy, we bail. Psychologists call this the expectation gap. A 2018 study from the Journal of Family Psychology found that couples with unrealistic expectations, those who believe their partner should complete them or make them happy 24/7, were twice as likely to divorce within 5 years. Meanwhile, couples who accepted imperfection and worked through conflicts had a 70% chance of staying together long-term. The lesson? Happiness in marriage isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about building a partnership that can weather the storms. But it's not just expectations, it's mindset. We live in a throwaway culture. Don't like your phone? Upgrade. Don't like your job? Quit. Don't like your spouse? Divorce. It's the same mentality. In 2023, the average length of a marriage before divorce was just 8 years. 8 years. That's barely enough time to figure out who pays the electric bill, let alone build a life together. We've been trained to see marriage as disposable, and the divorce industry is more than happy to cash in on that mindset. Here's a stat that'll blow your mind: 66% of divorces are initiated by women, according to a 2020 study from the American Sociological Association. Why? Because women are more likely to feel empowered to leave when they're unhappy, thanks to cultural shifts and financial independence. That's not a bad thing. Freedom is great, but it's been weaponized by a system that profits when couples split. Instead of teaching couples how to communicate or rebuild trust, the system whispers, "You deserve better. Walk away." And millions do. Now let's talk about what divorce really costs. Not just your wallet, but your life. The divorce industry wants you to focus on the upfront price. Lawyer fees, court costs, maybe a new apartment. But the real damage is deeper. Divorce doesn't just end a marriage, it reshapes your entire world, and not in the fresh start way they sell you. First, there's the emotional fallout. Studies show that divorce increases your risk of depression by 20%, anxiety by 15%, and even heart disease by 10%. It's not just a breakup, it's a trauma. You lose your partner, your routine, your sense of identity. And it's not just you, your kids, your parents, your friends all feel the ripple effects. A 2019 study from the Journal of Marriage and Family found that children of divorced parents are 50% more likely to struggle with mental health issues into adulthood. So when the system sells you divorce as freedom, they're not telling you the whole story. Then there's the money. Divorce doesn't just split your assets, it obliterates them. A 2022 report from the U.S. Census Bureau found that women's household income drops by 41% on average after a divorce, while men's drops by 31%. Alimony, child support, legal fees, they add up fast. And if you're splitting a house, a 401k, or a business? Good luck. The average couple loses 20% of their net worth in the divorce process. And that's before you factor in the cost of starting over, new rent, new furniture, new life. But here's the part they don't tell you: the divorce industry knows this. They know you'll be financially crippled, emotionally drained, and vulnerable. And they're counting on it. Because a broken person is a paying customer, whether it's for therapy, legal advice, or even dating apps to find yourself again. It's a cycle, and you're the one caught in it. So, who's behind this? Who's writing the script that makes divorce seem like the only option? It's not just one villain, it's a system. Media, culture, and even our own psychology play a role. Let's break it down. The media loves a good divorce story. Turn on any reality show, and you'll see couples tearing each other apart for ratings. Tabloids splash celebrity breakups across their covers, framing divorce as glamorous or empowering. But for every Kim Kardashian who walks away with a fortune, there are millions of regular people left picking up the pieces. The media doesn't show you the single mom struggling to pay rent, or the dad who only sees his kids on weekends. They sell you the highlight reel, not the reality. And it's not just entertainment. News outlets and social media amplify stories of toxic relationships, encouraging people to cut out the negativity at the first sign of trouble. A 2021 study from Pew Research found that 60% of Americans believe divorce is acceptable even without serious issues like abuse or infidelity. Why? Because the narrative has shifted. Marriage is no longer a lifelong commitment. It's a temporary contract you can cancel when it's not serving you. Social media takes it to another level. Scroll through TikTok, and you'll find thousands of videos about divorce glow-ups or how I left my toxic ex. These posts get millions of views, likes, and comments cheering the poster on. But what's the real message? That leaving is always the answer. That you're better off alone than working through problems. It's a dangerous oversimplification, and it's fueling the divorce boom. Here's a real example. In 2023, a viral TikTok trend called Divorce Diaries had women sharing stories of why they left their husbands. Some were heartbreaking: abuse, betrayal, neglect. But others? They were about petty grievances. He didn't do the dishes, or he didn't plan date nights. These videos racked up millions of views, with comments like, "You go, Queen." But what's the cost? Normalizing divorce over fixable issues creates a culture where commitment is optional, and the divorce industry is more than happy to cash in. Now, let's get into the psychology of it all. Why do so many couples throw in the towel? It's not just culture or money, it's how our brains are wired. Modern life has hijacked our ability to stay committed, and the divorce industry knows exactly how to exploit it. We live in a world obsessed with instant gratification. Social media, dating apps, even fast food, they all train our brains to chase quick hits of dopamine. Marriage, on the other hand, is a long game. It's not always exciting. Sometimes it's boring, frustrating, or just plain hard. When you're used to swiping for a new match or scrolling for a new thrill, the slow work of building a relationship feels like a letdown. So, when things get tough, our brains say, "Why stick it out? There's something better out there." Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. We're always chasing the next high, whether it's a new partner, a new job, or a new life. But here's the truth. Studies show that people who divorce and remarry are no happier than those who stay and work through their issues. A 2017 study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that 60% of second marriages end in divorce, higher than first marriages. Why? Because the problem isn't always your spouse, it's your mindset. This brings us to the grass is greener myth. It's the idea that if you leave your spouse, you'll find someone better, someone who gets you, who never annoys you, who makes every day perfect. But here's the reality. No one is perfect. Every relationship has flaws, and the sooner you accept that, the better. A 2020 study from the Institute for Family Studies found that 70% of couples who considered divorce but stayed together reported being happy 5 years later. Meanwhile, those who divorced were often no happier, and sometimes less happy, than before. So why do we fall for it? Because the divorce industry sells fantasy. Dating apps promise you'll find the one with a swipe. Self-help gurus tell you to choose yourself over your marriage. But the data doesn't lie. Commitment, not escape, is the path to lasting happiness. The scam is convincing you otherwise. Numbers and stats are one thing, but let's get real. Behind every divorce is a story. Two people who once loved each other, now caught in a system that thrives on their pain. These aren't just headlines or case files. Their lives torn apart. Let's meet a few people who've been through the divorce machine and came out the other side questioning everything. Their stories will show you just how deep this scam runs. Meet Sarah, a 34-year-old teacher from Ohio. She and her husband, Mike, had been married for 7 years. They had 2 kids, a mortgage, and what Sarah thought was a solid marriage. Sure, they argued about money, about whose turn it was to do the dishes, but nothing out of the ordinary. Then, one day, Mike came home and said he wanted out. No warning, no explanation, just I'm not happy anymore. Sarah was devastated. She begged for counseling, for a chance to fix things, but Mike had already hired a lawyer. Within months, Sarah was served divorce papers citing irreconcilable differences. Sarah didn't want the divorce, but the system didn't care. Her lawyer told her to protect herself by fighting for alimony and primary custody. Mike's lawyer pushed him to countersue for joint custody and half the house. What started as a disagreement spiraled into a $40,000 legal battle that drained their savings. Sarah lost her dream home. Her kids were shuffled between 2 houses, and she's still paying off legal fees 3 years later. The worst part? Mike later admitted he didn't even want the divorce. He'd been influenced by a coworker who said he deserved to live his truth. Sound familiar? That's the scam at work, a system that escalates personal doubts into permanent destruction. Now, let's talk about David, a 42-year-old mechanic from Texas. David and his wife, Lisa, had been married for 12 years when she filed for divorce. The reason? She felt unfulfilled and wanted to find herself. David was willing to work on the marriage, but Lisa was done. The family court awarded her primary custody of their 3 kids, plus $1,500 a month in child support and alimony, nearly half of David's take-home pay. He had to move into a 1-bedroom apartment just to make ends meet, while Lisa used the money to fund her new life, complete with vacations and a new boyfriend. David's story isn't unique. Family courts often favor one spouse, usually the one who files first, leaving the other scrambling to keep up. In 2023, men paid 80% of all alimony and child support in the US, even in cases where both parents earn similar incomes. David barely sees his kids now, and when he does, they're caught in the middle of a bitter co-parenting dynamic. He told us, "I didn't want this. I just wanted my family back." But the system didn't give him a chance. It's not about fairness. It's about keeping the divorce machine running. Sarah and David's stories are just 2 of millions. Every year, countless couples are pushed toward divorce by a system that profits from their pain. Lawyers fan the flames of conflict, therapists validate fleeting emotions, and courts churn through cases like an assembly line. The common thread? The system doesn't encourage reconciliation. It doesn't offer tools to rebuild trust or communication. Instead, It hands you a sledgehammer and says, smash it all. And when you're left with the wreckage, the industry moves on to the next couple. Here's a stat to drive it home. A 2021 study from the Institute for Family Studies found that 66% of divorced couples regretted their decision within 2 years. 2/3. That's not just a statistic, it's a tragedy. These are people who might have stayed together if the system hadn't made divorce the path of least resistance. If you think the divorce industry is shady, wait until you see how family courts operate. These aren't neutral halls of justice. They're the engine room of the divorce scam. Family courts are supposed to protect families, but too often, they're the ones tearing them apart. Let's peel back the layers and expose how the system is rigged. Family courts claim to prioritize the best interests of the child, but the reality is messier. In custody battles, mothers are awarded primary custody in 80% of cases, even when fathers are equally capable parents. Why? Because courts rely on outdated stereotypes about gender roles, mothers as caregivers, fathers as providers. This isn't just unfair to dads, it's unfair to kids. A 2020 study from the Journal of Marriage and Family found that children in shared custody arrangements have better emotional and academic outcomes than those in single-parent homes. So why do courts keep splitting families apart? Then there's the money. Child support and alimony payments are often calculated based on formulas that don't account for real-world expenses. Take David from our earlier story. His $1,500 a month payment was based on his gross income, not his take-home pay, leaving him with barely enough to cover rent. Meanwhile, Lisa wasn't required to show how she spent the money. In some states, you can be jailed for missing child support payments, even if you've lost your job or can't afford it. Fair? Hardly. Profitable? Absolutely. Custody battles are the divorce industry's cash cow. The more contentious the fight, the more money everyone makes, except the couple. Lawyers charge $300 to $500 an hour to argue over who gets the kids on Christmas. Mediators and court-appointed evaluators add thousands more to the bill. And if you want a psychological evaluation to prove you're a fit parent, that'll cost you $5,000 to $10,000. The average custody battle lasts 18 months and costs $50,000 per side. That's $100,000 for one couple, all to decide who gets to tuck their kids in at night. But here's the dirty secret: courts don't always care about the truth. They're overloaded with cases, and judges often rely on experts who have their own agendas. In some cases, court-appointed guardians or evaluators are paid under the table to favor one parent. A 2019 investigation by ProPublica found evidence of corruption in family courts across multiple states, with judges and evaluators colluding to prolong cases and maximize fees. The result? Families are torn apart, kids are caught in the crossfire, and the divorce industry laughs all the way to the bank. Let's revisit no-fault divorce, because it's the cornerstone of the family court scam. When no-fault laws were introduced, they were sold as a way to reduce conflict. Nobody has to prove adultery or abuse, so divorces would be simpler, cleaner. But the opposite happened. No-fault divorce made it easier to walk away, but it also stripped away accountability. One spouse can file for divorce without explaining why, leaving the other blindsided and defenseless. In Sarah's case, Mike didn't have to justify his decision to leave. He just checked a box on a form. The court didn't ask questions, didn't suggest counseling. It just processed the paperwork and moved on. The numbers tell the story. Since no-fault divorce laws spread in the 1970s, divorce rates have remained stubbornly high, hovering around 40 to 50% for first marriages. Meanwhile, countries with stricter divorce laws, like Ireland or Italy, have divorce rates below 20%. Why? Because when divorce is harder to get, couples are forced to confront their issues instead of running to the courthouse. The scam lies in making divorce so easy that it's the default, not the last resort. Family courts and lawyers are only part of the problem. The real scam starts long before you ever step into a courtroom. It starts with the world around you, the culture, the media, even your friends and family. Society is pushing a narrative that makes divorce not just acceptable but inevitable. Let's break down how we got here. We live in the age of hyper-individualism. Everywhere you look, the message is the same: put yourself first. Your happiness, your goals, your truth, they all come before anything else, including your marriage. Self-help books tell you to choose yourself. Influencers preach that you don't need anyone to complete you. And while self-love is important, it's been twisted into a mindset that sees commitment as a burden. A 2022 survey from Pew Research found that 71% of Americans prioritize personal fulfillment over family obligations. That's a seismic shift from just 20 years ago, when family was the top priority for 65% of people. This mindset doesn't just affect individuals, it poisons relationships. When both partners are told to chase their own happiness, they stop investing in the we and focus on the me. Small conflicts, like who's doing the laundry or how to budget, become deal breakers because they're seen as threats to personal freedom. The divorce industry loves this. Unhappy spouses are easy targets. All it takes is a whisper, "You deserve better," and they're signing divorce papers. Now, let's talk about a touchy subject: feminism. Before you jump to conclusions, hear me out. Feminism has done incredible things, giving women the right to vote, work, and live independently. But there's a paradox. The modern feminist narrative often frames marriage as a trap, a relic of a patriarchal past. Women are told they don't need a man to be happy, that staying in a less-than-perfect marriage is settling. And while empowerment is great, this message can backfire. A 2020 study from the American Sociological Association found that women who strongly identify with feminist ideals are 10% more likely to initiate divorce than those who don't. Why? Because the narrative equates leaving with strength and staying with weakness. Men aren't immune either. The same culture that tells women to live their truth tells men they're entitled to a perfect partner, one who never nags, always looks like a model, and never challenges them. When reality doesn't match the fantasy, both sides feel justified in walking away. The result? A society where commitment is optional, and divorce is the default. Your friends and family aren't always innocent bystanders either. When you're struggling in your marriage, who do you turn to? Your best friend, your mom, your coworker. And what do they say? You don't deserve this. You should leave. You're better off alone. They mean well, but they're often echoing the same cultural script that glorifies divorce. A 2019 survey from the National Marriage Project found that 55% of people who discussed their marital problems with friends were encouraged to divorce, even when the issues were minor. Instead of offering tools to fix the marriage, loved ones often push you toward the exit. And let's be honest, sometimes, they have their own agendas. A jealous friend might want you single so you can live it up together. A parent might push divorce because they never liked your spouse. These influences aren't always malicious, but they feed into the scam, convincing you that divorce is the only path forward. Now, here's the part the divorce industry doesn't want you to hear: you don't have to divorce. Even when things feel hopeless, there are alternatives, tools, strategies, and mindsets that can save your marriage. The system won't tell you about them because they don't make money when you stay together. But we're going to spill the beans. Let's start with the basics: communication. It sounds cliché, but most marriages don't fail because of big betrayals like cheating. They fail because couples stop talking. Communication isn't just talking, it's listening, understanding, and compromising. Programs like the Gottman Method or Emotionally Focused Therapy, EFT, teach couples how to navigate conflict without resorting to ultimatums. Success rates? Over 70% for couples who stick with it. But here's the problem: the divorce industry doesn't promote these tools. Why? Because a couple that communicates doesn't need a lawyer. If Sarah and Mike had tried EFT before Mike filed for divorce, they might still be together. If David and Lisa had learned to talk about their unmet needs, they might have avoided court altogether. The system doesn't want you to know this because a happy marriage doesn't pay their bills. Next, let's talk about commitment. Not the fluffy, romantic kind, the gritty, roll-up-your-sleeves kind. Marriage isn't about being happy every day, it's about choosing to stay, even when it's hard. A 2020 study from the Institute for Family Studies found that couples who viewed marriage as a lifelong commitment were 50% less likely to divorce than those who saw it as a try-it-and-see arrangement. Why? Because commitment forces you to problem solve instead of running away. Take John and Emily, a couple from California. After 10 years of marriage, they were on the brink of divorce, constant arguments, no intimacy, the works. Instead of filing papers, they made a pact, 6 months of weekly counseling, no matter what. They used a program called Retrovail, designed for struggling marriages. It wasn't easy, there were tears, fights, and moments they wanted to quit. But by the end, they rediscovered why they fell in love. Today, they're stronger than ever, and their kids have a stable home. The divorce industry would have had them in court, fighting over custody. Instead, they chose commitment. Another secret weapon? Community. In the past, couples relied on family, friends, or religious communities to support their marriage. Today, we're more isolated than ever. A 2022 survey from Gallup found that 60% of Americans feel lonely, and that isolation spills into marriages. Without a support system, small problems feel insurmountable. But communities, whether it's a church group, a couples retreat, or even an online forum, can make all the difference. Programs like Marriage Encounter or local support groups offer a space to share struggles and learn from others. Success rates? Up to 85% for couples who engage with a supportive community. The divorce industry hates this. A couple surrounded by people who believe in marriage is harder to break. That's why the system pushes individualism, because a lonely couple is an easy target. If you're struggling, find your tribe. It could be the difference between divorce and happily ever after. We've exposed the divorce scam, how the industry profits, how society pushes couples apart, and how kids pay the price. But here's the good news, you don't have to fall for it. Your marriage isn't doomed, and you don't need to become another statistic. In this section, we're giving you practical, actionable steps to strengthen your relationship, avoid the divorce trap, and build a love that lasts. The divorce industry doesn't want you to know this, but we're spilling their secrets. First, let's talk about communication, because it's the foundation of every strong marriage. You've heard it before, but here's the truth, most couples don't communicate, they argue. There's a difference. A 2022 study from the Journal of Couple and Relationship Therapy found that couples who practice active listening, truly hearing each other without interrupting or judging, are 65% more likely to resolve conflicts without escalating. So how do you do it? Start with a no-blame zone. Set aside 20 minutes a day to talk. No phones, no kids, no distractions. One partner speaks, the other listens without responding until they're done. Use I statements like "I feel hurt when we don't spend time together," instead of "you never make time for me." It's simple, but it works. Programs like the Gottman Method offer specific exercises, like the Love Map, where you ask each other questions to rediscover your partner's dreams and fears. Try it. It's like hitting the reset button on your connection. Here's a real example. Mark and Jessica, a couple from Colorado, were on the brink of divorce after 10 years of marriage. They fought constantly about money and parenting. Instead of hiring lawyers, they committed to 12 weeks of communication-focused therapy using the Emotionally Focused Therapy (EFT) model. They learned to express their needs without attacking each other. By week 8, they were laughing together again. Today, they're still married, stronger than ever. The divorce industry would have had them in court, but communication saved their family. Step 2. Get professional help, but be picky. Not all therapists are created equal. Some will push you toward divorce by focusing on individual. If they hesitate or talk about finding your truth, run. Programs like Retrovail or Marriage Encounter are also great options. They're designed specifically for struggling couples and often cost less than traditional therapy. For example, Retrovail, a weekend retreat for couples in crisis, has an 80% success rate for preventing divorce. The catch? You both have to show up and do the work. The divorce industry banks on you giving up, don't let them win. Step 3. Rebuild trust. Trust isn't just about fidelity. It's about knowing your partner has your back. A 2020 study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that small, consistent acts of kindness, like making coffee, leaving a sweet note, or helping with chores, can rebuild trust faster than grand gestures. Why? Because they show you're paying attention. They prove you care. Take Lisa and Tom, a couple from New York. After years of resentment over Tom's long work hours, Lisa was ready to walk out. Instead of a big apology, Tom started small. He took over bedtime duties with their kids, planned a weekly date night, and texted Lisa during the day to check in. These tiny actions showed Lisa he was all in. 6 months later, they were planning a second honeymoon. The divorce industry would have turned their resentment into a courtroom battle, but trust turned it around. Step 4. Build a pro-marriage community. Your friends and family can make or break your relationship. If they're cheering for divorce at the first sign of trouble, they're not helping. A 2019 survey from the National Marriage Project found that couples with supportive communities, friends, family, or religious groups who value marriage, are 40% less likely to divorce. Why? Because a strong community holds you accountable and offers perspective when things get tough. Seek out people who believe in commitment. Join a couples group at your church, mosque, or community center. Attend a marriage retreat or workshop. Even online forums, like the Marriage Builders community, can connect you with others who are working to save their relationships. When you're surrounded by people who root for your marriage, you're less likely to fall for the divorce scam's lies. Finally, step 5, reset your expectations. We've been sold a lie that marriage should be a constant high, endless passion, zero conflict. That's not reality. A 2022 study from the Institute for Family Studies found that couples who accept imperfection, snoring, quirks, occasional fights, are 60% more likely to stay together than those chasing a fairy tale. Marriage is about partnership, not perfection. Try this. Sit down with your spouse and write a marriage mission statement. What's your shared goal? Raising great kids? Building a legacy? Traveling the world? Focusing on a bigger purpose takes the pressure off daily frustrations. It reminds you why you're in this together. The divorce industry wants you to chase an impossible ideal. Don't fall for it. Embrace the messy, beautiful reality of commitment. Now, let's talk about a silent player in the divorce scam: technology. From dating apps to social media, our digital world is rewiring how we see relationships, and not for the better. The divorce industry loves technology because it amplifies discontent and makes walking away easier than ever. Let's break down how your phone might be sabotaging your marriage. Dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge aren't just for singles. They're a temptation for married people too. In 2023, a survey from Statista found that 10% of dating app users were married or in committed relationships. Why? Because apps create the illusion of endless options. Feeling bored in your marriage? Swipe right, and you'll find someone new, or so they promise. This grass is greener mentality is deadly. A 2021 study from the Journal of Social Psychology found that couples who actively use dating apps are 25% more likely to report marital dissatisfaction. Here's how it works. Apps feed your brain dopamine, the same chemical rush you get from gambling or scrolling social media. Every match, every message feels like a thrill. But it's a trap. Those options rarely lead to lasting happiness. Second marriages have a 60% divorce rate, higher than first marriages. The divorce industry loves this because every swipe pulls you closer to their doorstep. Then there's social media. Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook are comparison machines. You see curated posts of perfect couples, vacations, date nights, flawless selfies, and suddenly your marriage feels like a failure. A 2022 study from the University of Alberta found that heavy social media use is linked to a 15% increase in marital dissatisfaction. Why? Because comparison breeds envy. Your spouse's dirty socks or loud chewing start to feel unbearable when you're scrolling through #relationship goals. And it's not just a comparison. Social media amplifies the divorce narrative. Viral posts about leaving toxic relationships or choosing yourself get millions of likes, convincing you that divorce is empowering. In 2023, TikTok's divorce diaries trend alone generated over 500 million views, with thousands of users sharing why they left their spouses. Some stories were valid, but many were about fixable issues, petty fights, boredom, unmet expectations. The algorithm doesn't care about your marriage, it cares about engagement. And the divorce industry is happy to cash in on the fallout. Let's get real about another tech-driven issue, pornography. It's more accessible than ever, and it's wrecking marriages. A 2020 study from the Institute for Family Studies found that regular pornography use increases the likelihood of divorce by 20%. Why? Because it rewires expectations, creating unrealistic standards for intimacy and appearance. It also fosters secrecy, eroding trust. In 2023, over 30% of divorce filings cited pornography as a contributing factor, according to the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers. The divorce industry doesn't talk about this. They're too busy profiting from the broken trust. Technology isn't inherently evil, but it's a tool the divorce scam uses to amplify dissatisfaction. The solution? Set boundaries. Limit social media to an hour a day. Delete dating apps. Talk to your spouse about what you're consuming online. Transparency and discipline can shield your marriage from toxic influence. We've already debunked some big divorce myths, but there are a few more lies the industry pushes to keep the scam alive. Let's tackle them head-on with facts and logic, so you can see through the propaganda. Myth number 4: divorce is a clean break. The industry sells divorce as a way to move on with your life, but for most people, it's anything but clean. A 2021 study from the Journal of Family Issues found that 70% of divorced couples remain in contact, often contentious, due to co-parenting, alimony, or shared assets. You're not cutting ties, you're trading one relationship for a new, often messier one. Court battles can drag on for years, and child custody disputes can resurface anytime. Clean break? More like a lifelong entanglement. Myth number 5: you can't change your spouse. This one's tricky because it's half true. You can't force someone to change. But the idea that your spouse is stuck the way they are is nonsense. A 2020 study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that couples who work together on personal growth, like breaking bad habits or improving communication, see lasting changes in their relationship. The key? Both partners have to be willing. Programs like Marriage Builders or therapy can guide you, but the divorce industry wants you to believe change is impossible. Why? Because a fixed marriage doesn't pay their bills. Myth number 6: divorce is empowering. Social media loves this one. Posts about breaking free or starting over get millions of likes. But empowerment doesn't mean walking away. It means taking control of your life. A 2022 study from the University of California found that women who divorce often face a 40% drop in living standards, while men face a 30% drop. That's not empowerment, it's struggle. True empowerment is rebuilding your marriage, facing challenges together, and proving you can beat the odds. The divorce industry sells you a fake version of strength to keep you in their system. We've pulled back the curtain on the divorce scam, the industry that profits from your pain, the culture that glorifies walking away, the myths that trap you in a cycle of regret. But you have the power to change the story. You can save your marriage, protect your kids, and build a life that defies the odds. Here's your call to action: don't let the divorce industry win. Start today. Pick one action from this video, whether it's scheduling a therapy session, setting up a daily talk with your spouse, or joining a marriage support group. Don't wait for a crisis. A 2023 study from the National Marriage Project found that couples who proactively invest in their relationship, through date nights, retreats, or even reading a marriage book together, are 50% less likely to divorce. Small steps now can prevent a disaster later. Next, educate yourself. Read books like The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman, or The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Follow pro-marriage creators online, people who champion commitment over escape. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. The divorce industry thrives on ignorance, so spread the truth. The more people know, the less power the system has. Finally, fight for your family. Your marriage isn't just about you. It's about your kids, your legacy, your future. The divorce industry wants you to give up, to believe that love is disposable. Prove them wrong. Commit to your spouse, your kids, and yourself. A 2021 study from the Institute for Family Studies found that 70% of couples who choose to stay and work through their issues report being happy 5 years later. That's not a pipe dream, it's a choice. Divorce isn't inevitable. It's a choice, one the system wants you to make because it lines their pockets. But you're smarter than that. You see through the lies, the myths, the manipulation. You have the tools, the stories, and the data to fight back. So, what's it going to be? Will you let the divorce industry win, or will you take a stand for love, commitment, and family? The choice is yours. Make it count. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more truth about the world around you. The divorce scam is real, but so is your power to break free. Let's start a movement. One marriage, one family, one love at a time. Until next time, stay strong, stay committed, and don't let the system win.